development agreement for Megatron Solutions and Consultants for a development of metal machinery manufacturing facility in Tuscan Industrial Park. See no members of the public here to debate this, and we're not making a decision tonight. We're gonna defer this to another meeting.
Right.
Is this a second reading or first reading?
This will be the first public hearing. I think because we have two development agreements going on, there's the possibility that the residents in the vicinity weren't necessarily aware. So you can, in theory, approve that development today. I would be a bit more cautious if I was recommending anything, just for the mere fact that it may not be fully seen by the residents, because two of them came at the same time. So.
Okay. And that's a discussion we had earlier, so.
Yeah. Is it noisy?
We'll
So that was
discuss
my
that
question.
at the next public hearing. We don't know, really.
Well, my understanding is that it's all contained inside the building, but,
Right.
yeah, that's my understanding. But there would be trucking requirements in and out. And that location would be, right next to the residential
Road, the
turn
street,
off.
the turn off.
So Gardner's
Oh,
Lane
okay.
is down,
And that corner.
and it would be the first one immediately to that, so it's adjacent to Ian Garion's
Gary's.
property.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody all right with that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, we'll call the regular council meeting to order. We have regrets from Councillor Lucien LeBlanc, he's away. Do we have an approval of the agenda?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Conflict of interest declarations. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. No presentation, boy, that's been a lot of meetings since we haven't had a presentation. Adoption of the minutes of regular council meeting October 9th, 2018.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Committee of the Whole, October 30th, 2018.
Slow move.
Second.
No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Business arising from the minutes. A draft civic addressing signage bylaw, which was brought up by Councillor Lucien LeBlanc at our last meeting, and I see you're very quick at getting a bylaw up in place. I was going through it this afternoon. To me, it looked all right. I don't know, we have to put in some penalties or fines, but I don't think that's gonna be too much of an issue because we have a policy that we're offering free signs, right?
Right.
So I don't know why anybody wouldn't accept a free sign so they wouldn't fall under a fine situation, but one never knows. So is this something you would like to pass tonight, or would you want more reconsideration? Has everybody gone through it and seen?
I think we should go through it. It's up to the other councillor, but, I think everything's in, I read it and everything looks fine there.
I believe we should go through it as well, get it done, get it on the books. I believe as though there should be a grace period to have these signs up, just because there's gonna be quite an amount of signs and poles that are gonna be needed.
Well,
in
it
the
could be a matter of life and death.
Oh, I know that, but I'm just
So,
saying,
yeah.
we just can't have
Yeah.
1,000 poles or 1,000
No.
signs. I'm just using that
For
number.
sure.
You know,
So if I get
tomorrow.
what you're saying, we approve the bylaw and give like a year's grace?
Exactly,
To give
exactly.
people time to, and that way we can get, just said Chris, and that way we can get it in the newsletters and advertise. and-
Exactly.
and,
I would like to move that we accept the draft civic addressing signage bylaw.
I'd second that motion.
And you want to speak on that, Chris, before we have questions?
I was just gonna say that point 17 in the bylaw does state when the bylaw would come into effect, so you can choose whatever date you wish. And approving the bylaw here tonight would approve the first reading, and then it would be advertised, and the second reading would be at our next meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
So you could leave the bylaw date the same, But could you have a grace period to get your signs up?
That's right, so on 7.17, it says the effective date of this bylaw is December 11, 2018. I simply put that because that was the earliest that this bylaw could be approved and passed. But you could choose it to be April 1st, 2019, you could choose any date you would like for the bylaw to be in effect, even though the bylaw would be approved and passed in December.
Right.
Yeah,
So what do you think of the date?
Give it a year.
yeah,
Give it a year.
a year.
November 30th?
So roughly how many signs are we talking about here that we're,
Surprisingly, the
The
number
moving
that
target
still
or-
don't have them.
A lot of people don't have
We
them.
could
We,
be
we
quite a
don't
while.
have that information.
okay,
Well, there's about 3,200 households in the municipality of Argyle.
okay.
Now,
Okay.
we don't know how many households currently have one, but that could be roughly the amount, that will be the amount of signs that will be up
Yeah.
if this bylaw comes into effect.
There's also all the businesses doing everything.
Yes.
We'd have to have the businesses covered as well, because if you're driving, you know, if the paramedics or the MFRs are responding, can't find the business, you're not being able to help anyone inside, or wherever the help is needed.
So these signs, where are they manufactured, where are they made, how fast can we get them, do we know that stuff?
We do, we have that information, based on our previous orders. I mean, we have dealt with local, companies, when we fabricated the Civic signs, and the metal, I can't recall where we got the sign posts from, but they, in theory, could be local, because there's a variety of companies that could do that.
Presently, they are local. The company that is supplying the signpost
The post itself.
are local,
Yeah.
and so are the signs.
Okay.
Yeah,
the
I
actual
knew the
signs.
signs, but I wasn't
Yeah.
certain for the
Alright,
post.
so
Thank you.
I've been picking up a few.
How many resources do we need to, can we do this internally, or we're gonna need people from other resources in order to find out who needs a sign, or how's that all gonna work?
The bylaw doesn't address how we implement this. My feeling would be that we would engage with our volunteer firemen and women to help us determine where these civic signs are to be installed.
Okay.
Could we send out a memo per household through the mailing?
We could, I think, that meets with a certain level of success, not typically high success, because it takes a lot.
Yeah.
People aren't necessarily that eager to respond to correspondence of that nature. I think we have to go out and we have to identify and we have to help the residents with the implementation of this. This is going to take internal and external resources, to answer your question. And depending on how long we have to address this issue. So I just want to point out one other thing. There's a difference between the effective date of the bylaw and a grace period. So you have an effective date that will say the bylaw is in play.
That's right.
So any time between now and the grace period, let's go, right? So there's 2 dates to be conscious of. I would suggest that either here in this motion or at the second reading, that we would consider adding a grace period as a second date
Okay.
that says by XY, the goal is to have, 95% coverage or 100% coverage, and which generates us as staff to determine what the budget parameters would be in order to meet that demand.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier, you could have an effective date, but then you could have a date where you would educate and get it implemented and hopefully not start charging fines, but.
And that's
So-
why I was asking all the questions,
Yeah.
because is a year enough? Is it gonna take a year and a half? Is it gonna take 2 years, like,
A year, I can't answer that question without actually crunching the financial numbers.
Yeah.
Our first priority was to get a draft in front of you. If you wish to have that information before you pass the bylaw, absolutely makes a lot of sense to me, so this,
I would like that.
so we
You
can,
don't need, okay.
No,
we can, I mean, no, we can crunch the numbers, we know
Yeah.
how much it costs for one.
yeah.
And so we can, give that information that helps you. Our collective impression was cost was secondary and safety was primary.
Yeah.
So that's why we rushed to get the bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah,
So just go with first reading and pass it at our next meeting. Are you willing to withdraw the motion?
yes,
I'd rather go to the next one, to the next
Yeah.
reading, yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Seconder fine with that?
yeah. by all
Okay.
means.
I have a question, number 10, so it's highlighted in yellow, obviously, so that's a concern. It says the sign shall be artificially illuminated at night to be visible from the street or road, except if there is no electrical service to the lot or building. Was that there before?
No, not all signs, I think, if you read, I think it's the
If it's 15
places
meters
where,
above.
where
I
the,
didn't read
yeah.
it all.
If the household is, so many feet from the road that you can't really see from the road should be lit up, I think, if you
But how the
read
heck would you ever bring electricity
to,
to,
your
from the
driveway.
house, which is way in the back, to the road? That's really,
Uh,
if I'm understanding it right, that would be pretty hard. To run a wire, that underground cable is about $1 a foot, or 10 a foot.
If I can speak,
Yeah,
thanks to our municipal clerk, when he ordered that sign up there, I saw that the first time when I came in, and I asked him where he had got that, so he said, you go on Google, and so I Googled one for, last week, actually, and I'm getting one that's lit up for home, and it's run by solar. So it charges in the daytime and it's lit up at night, and I'm gonna put it on, because I've seen a couple of places in the town of Yarmouth, going to my daughter's place, and they've got it on their house, and like, it really catches your eye.
Yeah.
You're going by and boom, you've got it like on the corner of your eye. So you could put it on your house, or you could put it on a pole outside, but it's gonna light up like that one there does, and it's a great thing.
How much money?
The one I ordered, it was $259.
Let me tell you, a lot of people can't afford
Well,
that.
no, I know, but
Maybe it's
there's some cheaper.
yeah.
Yeah, but still, my point here is, if I'm understanding this right, and somebody lives, 1,000 feet from the road,
Yes.
can you imagine that cable at $1.10 a foot
Yeah,
to run power there? If I'm understanding this right.
But
I
it
don't-
says artificially illuminated. So if the sign is out at the road and at night a light source shines on it.
Yes, you see it.
It is eliminated.
Okay, this is
Where-
what I'm wondering, and I
Okay.
read that.
It does
Read,
shine.
read it again.
Yeah, the sign shall be artificially.
No, where the viewing distance measured from the place where the civic number is posted.
Oh, where the city number is,
Not if the sign is at the road.
road.
Yeah.
If it was in and you can't see it from the road, it would have to, they would recommend that it's illuminated so that you see it.
Then
It's like a
I can
jacket.
pick that up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right.
It's like a jacket.
That's a different,
that if the light hits it,
Yeah, it brightens up.
it brights up like
Right.
for floater jackets and stuff.
So that's why we get the signs we get, because.
Yes,
That's right, that's what
They're-
everybody
they
has.
light right
they're
up.
reflective, they're
Yeah, I get
reflective
you.
signs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
Sections 15 and 16 do not have the amounts inserted. That may be something that you'll want to consider when you're passing the bylaw.
Before you,
Okay, just want to mention that.
And another point of clarification is that this bylaw, or this program wouldn't obligate a resident to purchase or to take one of our signs. So there's criterias in the bylaw that if they chose to get a personal sign on their house or at the road, that they would have to follow certain criterias, but they would be allowed to do so.
exactly.
Yeah, that's why that information is in there, so the size of the letters, the illumination of the sign, if it's on their house and
That's
they're
right.
50 feet or more than 15 meters from the road, then they would have to illuminate that sign.
Gotcha.
So it's those are the reasons why that wording is in
Thank you
there.
very much, I understand it now. Yeah.
Now, you could choose to obligate them to get our specific sign, which would reduce the amount of wording in the bylaw, but that would be up to you.
some people take pride in building stuff.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
I
It
have
would be at
both,
their cost and not ours, so.
I have both homemade and one of ours. Okay, councillors report.
We need a motion to approve,
First
we
reading.
need the approval for the motion, sorry.
Okay. Approval?
There's a motion on the floor to approve this as the first reading. It just hasn't been voted on.
So move.
It's already been moved and
Yeah,
seconded,
okay.
Okay,
just hasn't been voted on.
all in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Just for clarity, this bylaw does not address that the municipality will pay for the civic numbers. That is a policy and not a bylaw.
We have that already in place, right?
We do, they may need some wording changes. It would require a much larger financial commitment on your part. But it's specifically not in the bylaw because it's a policy item, not a bylaw.
Mhm.
Understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll have to deal with that.
Yeah.
The next budget, we should be all right for this year, would you think?
Yeah,
But we'll find it.
probably, yeah.
Councillors report, starting this side this time.
Helped out at the Remembrance Day ceremonies in West Pubnico. Attended a active transportation meeting, an EMO meeting, and it's ironic, but painted a pole and put a Civic sign up at the Musée in West Pubnico for them.
I don't want to.
You know, that's it.
I'm on.
Yeah.
I attended Nikhil. I did a learning journey. I don't know if you guys are aware that when we were on the board at Nikhil, we have to do learning journeys. We have to follow somebody that works at Nikhil. So I followed the recreation for a couple hours just to see what they do. So that's one of two that I've done. I've done housekeeping as well. So it's very informative and education of what Nikhil really does during a day, and that's only nothing, it's only a little thing of what they do, so it's very, it's good that we do that. I attended the NSFM in Halifax, the conference, and I went to the ceremonies at the Legion on the 11th of November, and I'd like to say thank you to our veterans.
Deputy Warden?
I, as well, I attended Wetchford, the ceremonies in Wetchford. I laid the wreath on behalf of municipality at the Mass, and I attended the celebrations at the Legion after. I'm on a panel with our CAO and Hans and Marcia for asset management. We've already had one session in Yarmouth, and we're going to a second session this Friday at White Point. I've had a call, well, I've met with someone from the East Kent area, a bit concerned about, he received a letter from, I think he said it was Environment, that they plan on not they don't, no, I can't say they plan on doing this. They've had a request to, in the Toby Attic, there's walking trails. There's no motorized vehicle allowed in the Toby Attic. But they've had a request, and they're looking at maybe widening the trail that's there now to accommodate four-wheelers and whatever. There's a concern there because it's a quiet area. That was a law that was passed a while back, and they're a little concerned about the noise and whatever else because it's where it's at. Once they open that, then you're going to have a lot of traffic there. And the request came from a landowner apparently who has, I don't know if he has property, whether he has a camp or something on there, I don't know, hunting camp or whatever, I'm not sure. But that's where the request came from. And this guy's supposed to let me know, because what he's looking for, if they go ahead with that, he would like the support. I mean, there's people that I'm sure that are for it, but there's people that are against that. And he will be in contact once he knows for sure whether that's going to happen or not. But I think he would like the support of the municipality against that. And another thing that was brought up was, and I know there's nothing, can't do much about it, we've tried, it's the Tin Mine Road. They fixed a good section of it, but there's a much larger section that there's holes in there that if you travel there at night, by the time you see them, you're in them. And he would like to know if there's anything that we can contact the department to see if they can at least try to remedy the worst sections. He's not looking to have it all paved. They paved for a ways past where the tin mine used to be. I drove there just to see how far. And what they fixed is great, but where they stopped from there on, there's some really, really bad sections. So anyway, I don't think this is a good time of year to do that, because nothing's gonna happen now, I don't think. I mean, what the program's coming up and whatever, so. Anyway, you just wanted me to bring that up to council, and maybe later on we can pass a motion or something that we can have a letter sent again. I mean, I know we send letters, I don't know if they do anything, but if you don't, then nothing's gonna get done. Maybe after a while, by keeping after them, maybe something will be done. Especially, and I think especially if the mine opens again, I think they're gonna have to do something. They're gonna get the trucking out of there, so anyway.
You should
So
call
that's-
and get a number, you remember what we were told?
Oh, yes.
Did you ever call for them to get
Not
that
for
number?
not for that one,
Not,
not for that one yet.
you should get a number.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So the
Yeah.
first one you talked about, that would be an action item that you'd want to put on a future agenda, so, because I like to have both sides of the four-wheeler
Yeah.
trail story, not just based on what one guy thinks we should do. I mean, I'd like to hear more information.
Yes, but I'm surprised that they're even considering it, because this is a law that they passed a while back, if I'm not mistaken, that all of a sudden they close these areas to motorized vehicles. Why they would be considering that one, I have no idea. Yeah.
It's a protected area.
It is a
back there.
protected area, that's
Yeah.
why I'm surprised, and when he said he came from, I'm sure he said from the Department of Environment, that really surprised me, because to me, that should be a Department of Lands and Forestry. Or would it be? I'm not sure.
We gotta get a lot more information, I guess.
Yes. But at this point, it's a request. He was notified that the request was there, basically. And he told me that as soon as he heard more, he would let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Surratt?
I, like the rest, attended the Remembrance Day celebration, later wreath, and we had the ringing of the bells at the churches down in my area, and Remembrance Day, organized by the Legion, well attended. We had people from older people to younger people to babies pulling the cord. We took pictures. So that turned out all right. And like Kathy, I attended the NSFM, and great learning, great workshops, and really, really enjoyed it. That's it.
Councillor Murphy, anything?
October 28th, I attended the firemen's dinner at Whitesport Fire Department. It's always a great function. Firefighters, Women's Auxiliary. It was very good. The food was excellent, and I talked to a couple firemen there and said that they were quite sure it was the biggest one held so far. So there was a great attendance. And I also attended Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities in Halifax from the 6th to the 9th, which is, it's always good information there, and networking is great. And so that's it for me.
Councillor Albright?
I attended many of the same types of meetings that you all attended. I also did a learning journey at Nikhil. I did a learning journey in the kitchen. So spent 2 hours working with the kitchen staff delivering meals, and was really impressed at how well the Nikhil staff knows their residents. knows all the dietary needs. It's much more complicated than you can even imagine, but it was really, it was interesting, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that as a board member. Similar Remembrance Day services, laid a wreath on behalf of the municipality, attended an EMO meeting. Also for the recreation department, for the children's Halloween event, it was a little different this year. We had the pumpkin decorating, 2 sittings, and it was completely filled up. It was unbelievable how many kids showed up, and it was very well attended and very well done. So it was nice because it was a different type of event this year. Want to mention that the tree lighting for the municipality is December 2nd, so that's coming up very soon. That's usually a big event for us. And also would like to mention, for the public more than anything, the Experience Argyle event that's happening very soon on the 22nd of November. It's probably one of the best events that we put up there, so just wanted to mention that. That's it, thank you.
Councillor Dion-Clark?
I attended the Remembrance Day ceremonies at the West Pimlico Legion with Councillor Borkin, Councillor Digdon, and also did the 100th anniversary of the Armistice with the 100 ringing of the bells, and I'd like to thank Councillor Digdon and Councillor Book, because I guess Councillor Digdon was responsible for St. Peter's, and you were at East Pimlico, so and it was really well attended, and like I think as Guy said, from ages from 0 to probably 100, so or close. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next is the Warden's report. Let me see. Anything different? Fireman, Bridgeport's fireman dinner, I done that. Doctor recruitment with our CAO, that committee's gonna be up and running again. And a Buptic Festival meeting, planning meeting. The rest is what everybody else has done, I guess, so. We'll move on to staff report, and that will be you, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you.
CAO.
Thank you. So you've had this a while, so I'll try to stay high level. So the Westport Septic Tank project, we did confirm an extra 3 locations to finish the project, so that'll bring us to 42 out of a budgeted 44. So that's pretty good. I think it was, there were hiccups, but we have 42 new septic tanks, dealing with wastewater in Westport, and that's a success story. And so I imagine we'll have other opportunities. Right now, the project is closed for the time being, and we still have quite a few people on the list that would be interested in getting that service. Now, some people get on the list and say, well, how come I didn't get picked, or and some are on the list now that haven't been evaluated. So if you hear in the community, and I'm saying it for Facebook Live as well, is that the first thing that we do is we have an engineer assess whether or not you need a new septic tank. So that's the first step. Now, if obviously on the first step of the first phase and the first list, everybody got that opportunity, and some people were rejected because their septic tank was suitable. So again, this is voluntary, and it's based on a failing or non-existent system. So some people, saw it as an opportunity to upgrade their systems, but if their system did not require update, it didn't happen. So that project funding will end at the end of March 2019, and we'll get all our expenses in by then. The admin building, there will be an official announcement on funding to be made this Thursday. Deputy Warden Muse will be MC, and Warden Donaldson will have words on behalf of the municipality. We've extended the invitation to the local mayors and wardens, just in case they're interested, and as well as Acadia First Nation. We did send out an invitation there as well, and of course MP Fraser will be present. And I'll make sure the local MLAs are aware of it, that it is a federal funding announcement, so they'll have no role in it.
It will be at the municipal office.
It will be here. It will be in this room, in fact. So that's happening. So we are, we have received everything we need in order to move forward with the negotiation phase, I guess, for lack of a better way of calling it, for the tenders, the bids that came in on the building. So we will be interviewing all qualified bidders. There is an in-camera item that I will be informing you on, but it's still, it's a legal item that should be kept in camera. And obviously, I think it's been made clear that the bids are quite a bit higher than budget. We are still committed to that budget, and we are still committed to the size, and we are still committed to net zero. So all those things are stable, so we'll see what the other things have to change in order to make this work. And I'm reasonably confident that we can make some changes, and we'll see. So time will tell. Myself and Hans will be very close to this project, as well as others, but primarily myself and Hans will be very close to this project. Charlene and I met with a prospective developer for seniors alternative housing, with the possibility of it happening in Tuscan. So we're still very early in discussions, but I think it's important for people to know that this is a topic that we're continuously getting, we're taking advantage of any opportunities that come our way, and we're trying to align ourselves with proper people to partner in order to make that happen. These things take time. So Charlene, this is one of Charlene's babies. So certainly is one. Go ahead.
Can I ask just a quick question? And you're saying alternative housing as opposed to affordable housing?
Yeah, I'm a little careful to use the word affordable housing because it has a bit of a negative connotation to it, and I don't want to. I mean, there may be affordable housing facilities inside of this.
Yes.
Yeah, but I prefer to call it alternative housing. It's obviously a downsizing situation for seniors who are looking to downsize. So it isn't exactly like the projects that you see in the town of Yarmouth. It has a uniqueness to it. So as the information flows, we'll certainly keep you apprised. But we have had a couple of conversations with these developers, and they're very eager and extremely reputable and local.
Yeah, nice to hear.
Yeah, and so rural internet, the REN continues to lead on this. Developed Nova Scotia has the mandate to provide high speed to 95% of the population. This is a topic that is near and dear to you all. I know a lot of residents want this to happen. Develop Nova Scotia and federal government, provincial federal government, and internet service provider funding, and maybe municipal funding might be necessary to bring this together. We are depending on the region, the problem is either difficult to address or not as difficult to address. Argyle Argyle municipality is not as bad as others because the places that require improvement are actually in fairly populated areas. Like, you'd be surprised that West Pubnico doesn't have a solid internet in a lot of places, which is our most populated location. There's just a question of how old the product on the ground was and the time around the replacement of that. So, and obviously that's not the only community. There's communities of Argyle proper and other communities that have been identified as problem areas. So.
I was just wondering, this is 95% of the population. I assume that's the overall population. I was hoping it would be the rural population, but I mean, 95% of the overall population is still gonna leave a lot of rural areas without internet.
That's a really good observation. I don't know exactly what the 95% number is measuring.
Yeah.
Like, it
Because
would
I'm
be kind of
assuming a big part of the province already has that.
yeah, and there are actually areas of HRM that require that upgrade as well. So, you know, the HRM proper certainly is more than, but as you get out into the rural areas, they have issues as well.
Okay. Yeah.
on the ring, I was at the conference in Halifax, I talked to, and I'm not gonna mention the municipalities here. But I talked to a couple different councillors, and they've already stepped out of the ring. They got out of it, and then I talked to another councillor, Warden actually, and not very far, and said they were getting out. Do you know anything about that?
I can confirm that Claire is not part of the rural internet. Now, when you say out of the REN, what I assume you mean is that they're out of this project, not out of the REN itself.
So I heard that they were getting right out of the ring.
I don't have that information.
That's what I was told by this individual, and then another couple individuals that were away from here said they had got right out of it.
Well, there's nobody that has officially gotten out of the REN to the best of my knowledge.
No, so I just,
But it may be that they, on this particular project of rural internet, I can confirm that Claire is not part of it. And there might be others that want to try to find their own way.
okay.
It depends on where they are geographically. So some people try to solve their own problems, and I get it, because people get impatient around, you know, how long it might be taking.
Yeah, and that was said.
Develop Nova Scotia is unlikely to fund projects that are one-off projects. They are more likely to have a plan for the province and say, this is how we solve the problem for the province. So, I think, and there are other municipalities that are going on their own as well, like the municipality of the District of Annapolis, has, you know, is investing multi-millions of dollars with an internet service provider to bring that service to their community. I can, to the best of my knowledge, Digby is still part of this partnership. And I don't mean REN, I mean rural internet, as well as the municipality of the District of Yarmouth, Argyle, and Barrington, to the best of my knowledge. Now, the town of Yarmouth, it's not an issue for them.
Okay.
So
And
they're
that was
not,
the other way, like, the other side of, not Digby Way, it was
yeah.
the other side.
And look, I mean, Shelburne, the municipality of Shelburne had, or is in the process of trying to solve their own problem, and so the closer that solution comes, the more likely it might be attractive to another neighboring community to just keep her going, right?
Yes.
So I can imagine that could happen, and look, it might happen to us too, but that line isn't anywhere near us right now in order for that to happen, and we have confidential conversations with internet service providers who tell us where the service is now, and they don't disclose that, but they say, look, this is the area where we need to improve, blah, blah, blah. So internet service providers have a pretty good idea as well, so we're talking directly with them through the REN.
Yeah, the reason I brought it up is I knew that you would know what goes on, because you're on top of things.
Yeah, but I if somebody's leaving the REN and you hear about it, then you're on top of it.
Yeah, well, yeah, well,
That's what you call networking.
So, if you don't mind, I can continue. Nothing significant on the new fire hall in Eelbrook. East Pumlico Water Tank, we're meeting with them in a week's time to talk about that project, which is a fairly big project to replace the big tank, so that's ongoing. Dispatch, so I sent a letter. The letter wasn't on behalf of council, the letter was, and I think you've seen that letter, and we just received a response today, press release, saying that the town has made a decision regarding their fire dispatch. I don't know if you want to address that here and now, but it is a press release that was issued. I think it's fairly early for you to address it in any way, shape, or form, but the town is basically stating that the dispatch, the 24 fire departments who rely on the town dispatch service had failed to reach a consensus on cost sharing, which is true. 7 of those departments have already left and opted to sign contracts outside, also true. That forces the town to begin the layoff process and prepare for contracting out the service for itself. I'm not gonna comment on the accuracy of these statements, so I'll just move on. In August, the town made a proposal to the fire departments that dispatch service in Yarmouth could be saved if all departments agreed to a 1 cent tax rate increase to cover the cost of dispatch service. I will say that that would not have been possible this year because it was past the taxation
Right.
time.
Absolutely.
Town agreed to provide a 45-day extension. The response coordinated by the municipality of Argyle, well, it's coordinated by the CAO for the municipality of Argyle, rejected the town's proposal and reoffered the exact proposal previously tabled by the affected municipalities. That's a true statement, minus the 7 fire departments. Absolutely true. Proposal would pay the town $31,400 for a service that costs over $260, forcing taxpayers of the town of Yarmouth to continue to subsidize dispatch from Shelburne to Clare areas.
That's questionable.
The proposal was intended to go to the end of this fiscal year, but there was no commitment to increase contributions or even remain with the service beyond March 2019. And there's quotes from the mayor, excited about a 1 cent proposal, disappointing to see that the suggestion put forth was not considered. It's not that it wasn't considered, it just wasn't gonna happen this year. The town had repeatedly said that we are more than willing to pay well above market value to save the dispatch jobs, but in a fair manner, and that did not happen, which they did say. So it looks like the town is now proceeding with contracting out for dispatch service, and essentially the union representing dispatchers has asked to discuss the terms and conditions of the layoff and bargaining, which resumes Tuesday morning, November 13th. And that is that. So it looks like the town is announcing the layoff process. So the timing is unknown essentially, but I would suggest that this will have, there'll be some conversation at the Mutual Aid Association meeting, which is this Thursday. I'm not sure where it's located. I believe it's at Lake Vaughan, okay. So that might come up. So that's the response to the letters that I sent. I guess from the municipality of Argyle's perspective, you'll have to decide whether you have a response to that, and what you want to do from that perspective is unknown. You just heard it today, so it's hard to know what you're looking to do there. I can continue, or?
The only thing I would say on the dispatch service, I was definitely hoping that we could keep it the way it presently is now, being dispatched from Yarmouth. I don't think that's gonna happen. It looks like it's breaking apart. There's no saying it's not. The only thing I'd like to see, for the protection of our residents, businesses, homes, dwellings, that we start looking sooner than later to make a move towards another dispatching service, instead of trying to push it right to the end and then going out looking. And that's what I'd say, because it looks like we're gonna be going down that road anyway, so I'd say let's start getting our ducks in a row and make sure we do it right with the transition.
Hasn't our CAO already looked into that, if I remember right?
Yeah,
You had price, because we had some information.
we do. CAO Victoria Brooks from the municipality of Yarmouth really was the lead in engaging the Digby dispatch and having those folks come over and have a chat with our volunteers.
Yeah.
There is documentation that would be required in order to move into that direction. We have not received any official response from any of our volunteers. Firemen, I know that the chiefs did receive an email, as one of the chiefs swiftly forwarded the email to me. So they have also received notice of that.
Councillor Surratt?
I would just like to say it's very short-sighted, what I'm seeing going on here. I mean, I've been involved in the fire department for 38 years, and to see something like this happen and put a gun to everybody's head all of a sudden, you know, and I know the town had to, because of the union, had to go and before warning the municipalities, I understand how it had to be done, but I still think it's very short-sighted, and people are left holding the bag, you know, and I still feel there was room for negotiation at the time, but, you know, obviously, it is what it is, and we're where we are, and we have to make plans, like Councillor Digdon said. We have to start putting our ducks in a row and planning on this, so we're not left in the dark. So certainly, I don't know if you need a motion on that for once you're done with if you need a motion to move forward, or how that's gonna work, once you've gone over your report. It's not on the agenda.
I don't know that, no, it's not on the agenda, so I think that we'd be best to discuss with our chiefs before we're in a position
I would
to
think so.
to do that, and also with our other partners that were purchasing the service, right? Which right now is the municipality of Yarmouth. And there was one, I think it was Shag Harbor, that was still on the town dispatch service. Everybody else decided to go somewhere else. I think it's important I think my only comment is, we're not responsible for the elimination of the dispatch service.
Whatsoever.
We may not have come to the table in the way that the town wished, but we are not responsible for the elimination of this service. That I refuse to read. That's just not the case. You know, there was a funding gap, and there was a big funding gap. And I completely respect the town's need to fill that gap. But in the period of time that we were given, where this has been an issue for over, 7 years, I think there might have been a better, maybe a longer term period of time that could have transitioned this funding gap, as would be the case in a lot of other scenarios where a funding gap is huge. It doesn't happen instantly to fix. Did our response, was our response generous? No, I would say it wasn't. You know, to go back to the town and say, same deal, really, you know, it's not a great response. So I acknowledge that. The fact of the matter is we weren't gonna pick up the cost of everyone else that had walked away from the service when the town said they were gonna eliminate the service. So we had less customers, and so it made the problem worse for everyone, including the town. So, but I don't think that this council or any council should accept responsibility for the elimination of a service that you did not provide, that you paid to have.
That's right, and furthermore, it's right in the, you know, the budgets had been set for everybody, we're in the middle, you know, we've got our budget set, and we've got till the end of March, so in all fairness, if they could have come to the table, and when I say they, I mean the town, could have said, okay, we're gonna go till 2019, March, you know, here's what you're gonna do, fair enough, but no, in the middle, and we're left holding the bag, not knowing, were they gonna drop it, were they not gonna drop it, how quick, you know, was it gonna be tomorrow, was it gonna be in 3 months, they never even gave the dispatchers, you know, that privilege, they just said, you know, down the road, we're gonna cut it off, and without putting a date or anything. So, you know, on that part, in my opinion, I'm not talking for council, I think the fire departments were left holding the bag without any more budgets, we need to work with, and, you know, it's very unfair, I find.
Continue with your report.
That's probably, I spent a lot of time on it this time around.
That's quite all right.
And so I too attended the NSFM, and there'll be a variety of meetings that follow that, and the rest of the report is attached for your information. And if there's any other questions on anything in the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Councillor Ward?
Might not be the appropriate time to ask this, but you said the Wedgeport sewer system's going to end, the project's gonna end in March?
Yes.
Okay.
The last three will be installed in the next couple of months.
So is this can this type of project be open to another district?
That would be at the will of council. Keep in mind that Wedgeport was identified as having the biggest environmental issue, and we dealt with it only after we received federal provincial funding. So the answer of whether it can be replicated in other communities, I would say the answer is yes, it can in theory, and nothing's stopping council from doing that. I'd only caution that it should be in areas that have the greatest need, and that could be your area, or it may not be your area. So, yeah, and we haven't, we basically waited for federal and provincial to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's just an
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah,
Thought.
absolutely. And the other thing to keep in mind, and this is something the asset management will bring to the forefront, is when we do these kinds of projects and we add, the more we add, the more human resources we will require to maintain. So that's the other thing you want to keep in mind. There's a capital cost that we don't pay for, but then there's an operating cost
That's right.
that we could pay for. Right now, Wedgeport is paying an amount for operations. It's not a high level of need at this time, but the more you do, the more that could happen. And hey, look, and if that's your intent, that's great.
Yeah.
But you have to be aware of it, that's all. Okay.
Okay. We have nothing under number 9. Number 10 for decision. Request for tax adjustment voluntarily destruction. Went through this. There's no recommendation from staff on how to deal with this one.
So, this one is, was an unusual circumstance.
I see that.
Yeah.
It was a situation where a property burnt down and there was no official kind of indication that that happened. So, however, we learned that our public works department was aware that it occurred. It just didn't translate in an adjustment in the assessment, and it was just an oversight. So the fact that we were aware of it, we could have made that adjustment. And so from my perspective, it's on us.
Binding.
It's on us. So, the 2018 tax bill ought to have been adjusted if that information was properly transmitted. It is now, I'm just going to the adjustment amount. It wouldn't be the entire amount. The building value would reduce the assessment accordingly. So what would happen is there's a total assessment of 32,900 or 32,000.
32,900.
The building would come off, and so the net adjustment would be the difference. So you do have the ability as council to make that approval. Typically, it would happen, it would occur much earlier. So I would recommend that, that the bylaw, except for the date, is satisfied for involuntary destruction, and I would recommend that council approve the request and adjust this for someone who lost property.
I also won't.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? You would like to speak on the motion?
Already
Councillor Surratt?
voted, but I had a question for Alain. Alain, how does this differ from the resident in Westport that the gentleman tore down the house and he was looking for a tax relief on that? And this council, well, he never came to council. How does this differ? All of a sudden we can now, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, seems now we can make, it's up to us that we can do it, but to him we couldn't.
No, that's correct. There's a big difference between voluntary
And
destruction
involuntary.
and involuntary. We cannot adjust the taxes on a voluntary disposition. We can, however, on involuntary because of the nature of what
Nature
happened.
of what happened. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All against? Motion carried. Okay, I've lost my agenda.
We were on staff report, did you want me to go over that again?
Finance.
You might as well add the financial report while we're at it.
10,000 meetings on
Take
work
home.
stuff with this guy.
He's smiling now, but he wasn't.
I thought you had high speed here. Here we go.
Oh,
Okay, other business. Nova Scotia Limited Development Agreement Amendment. We will give that to the appropriate staff member, which would be you or Chris.
it would be myself. It has to do with the proposed sea cucumber development in the Tuscan Business Park. We had the opportunity to speak with residents another time, and we also had the opportunity to hear from the developer. At this point, I would suggest that we defer any sort of decision until we can kind of let all the information absorb. And there have been amendments to the development agreement. And the amendments, you would have received that information. It's all highlighted in yellow, and it essentially puts more onus on the developer to deal with any sort of noise and odor issues that may come out of that potential development. Now, keep in mind that development is not approved as of yet. We're still in what I would call public hearing mode.
So that will be taken up again next week and we'll discuss it at that time, defer it to then?
Yes, and because of lobster season, we may have to do this as a special meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, and obviously we'll advertise accordingly.
Okay, the next one is a draft asset management policy from Ian Rankin to do with the fire departments and the way our fire departments assist.
No. That's the wrong,
That's the wrong one?
Yes.
that,
Oh, that's correspondence.
yeah.
Draft assess, okay, I moved down one too quick. Draft assessment management policy.
Yes.
Sorry. And would you like to take this one?
Very quickly, this is your notice, so you can't approve this today. This is the work that we completed at our last session for asset management. So we're part of an organization called AIM, and they are helping us through this process, helping us, I guess, training us how to do this properly, which is, so the first step is a policy. So this policy sets your interest as a council, how you make decisions around the new or existing infrastructure that you have. So I would just, this was just added today. There's no reason to go detail on it right now. I think the next meeting we will go detail. I suggest you read through it, and it really just gives us guidance as to how we're gonna do this. So this is really gonna up our game around how we make decisions for infrastructure investment.
And that'll be part of the meetings you're going to on Friday to do with
Friday,
this?
that's
Yes.
the other, that's second session. So.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on to correspondence and information. We have our building permit comparisons for your information, and now we're down to the Department of Natural Resources, and they just responded to a letter we sent to them to do with the fire departments helping out in forest fires. And that's online for anybody to read. Financial requests, we have none. Agenda topics for next meeting or notice of motions by councillor, is there any? Nope. Question period. Nothing from anybody, Scott, Facebook, and Eric, nothing? Okay, we have to have a motion to go in camera.
So moved.
Second.